So what's up, Danny? How are you?
Hey, how are you getting on? Good,
Oh,
not
good.
too bad.
Well, thanks, Minnie, for coming on. Really appreciate it. What's it? She was saying that you're back training and stuff. Are you expecting to get a fight in soon?
Yeah, so we're supposed to have a fight coming up soon for Bellator, but at the moment I'm not able to announce it. But yeah, there's supposed to be something coming up really shortly in the pipeline. So I think they're just working out the ins and outs of it, and it'll be announced hopefully in the next few days.
Yeah, nice. Is it going to be behind closed doors event?
Yeah, I presume so. Anyway, we haven't got given a lot of information, but from what I see, anyway, I think everything's behind closed doors. So, that's what I'm expecting. There's been no mention of tickets, so that I guess that's kind of the answer.
Yeah. How would you expect that to be? That, no crowd, fighting in front of no crowd.
I guess I'll just repeat what everyone else has been saying to this answer, which is or to this question, which is it's just like sparring in the gym.
Yeah.
No crowd, quiet arena. Like it'll be the exact same as sparring in the gym, really. So I don't mind either way. It's obviously great to walk out in the Three Arena to a packed crowd, and you get a buzz off it. But at the end of the day, a fight's a fight, and if we get a fight behind closed doors, I'll be just as happy as if I was in the Three Arena anyway. So it'll be
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah, great to just get a fight in, I suppose, like all that training and with for a while, but there was nothing really inside when you get to fight again. So to just compete, it'll be something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I guess we were all worrying that the end of the year would just run out and it would end up being 2021. And there's still like quite a lot of uncertainty with mass gatherings like in indoors. So if I get this fight in now, I'll be delighted. That'll close off, I'd say, 2020 for me, and then hopefully next year things will be changing a bit with everything.
Yeah. How many fights did you expect to get in this year? Because I know you had one early in the year as well. Like, how many did you expect to get in?
Well, on my contract, I'm generally just supposed to fight in Ireland. That's they want to keep Irish fighters on Irish soil. So I knew there was February and October was the plans. So I was expecting to get them two fights in, and then they will let you out of your contract to take another fight if you can get one. I haven't found it that easy to get a fight out of contract because you're not able to sign another contract with another promotion. So, I was hopeful I'd get 3 fights, but, knew I was definitely getting 2. So, I'm not going to complain in the current climate if I get a second fight in this year. I think I've done better than most people. A good few people missed February with injuries and stuff and different things. So, they're kind of harder pushed, or, they're like under a bit more pressure to want to get another fight for the end of the year.
Yeah. So yeah. So you're kind of, I suppose, close enough to being on track with this year, really.
Yeah, exactly. Like I actually was injured myself for the February fight. I tore my groin about I think 6 weeks out or something, and it was whether I was going to fight 2 weeks out even from the fight. I still hadn't done any contact, so I ended up just going ahead and doing it, and I'm so happy now because we were locked down the following week, and I would have been raging like if I hadn't have took that, and then not knowing what was going on. So yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah, the risk paid off, I suppose. Yeah. But so I just take it back. Like, what's your kind of sport and background? Like, how did you get into martial arts? Were you sport and kid growing up, or what?
Yeah, I'm a bit different to most people that got into martial arts. I didn't start till I was 25. So I grew up in the country in Roscommon, and I spent years riding horses. And I actually worked in the Curragh for a few years in the racing industry. I rode in a couple of races. I did lots of cross country and owned my own horses and competed kind of all things cross country in that side of things. And then when I was 24, that I decided I wanted a clean break from the horses. I was totally fatigued from it all. I been riding since I was really small, and it was all I knew really. So I said, right, clean break. I'm going to sell up everything, and I'm going to quit my job in the racing yard. In the meantime, I'd done a degree in physiotherapy, so I had options like to get a physio job then as well. So it was easy enough for me to make the clean break. And I guess I was qualifying the same year as I decided I was packing in the horses. So that year I wanted to try something new, and I was chatting to a guy on Tinder, and he was explaining that he was a fighter, did MMA, and I didn't know anything about MMA or martial arts or Conor McGregor, anything, and he was telling me all about it. And I just thought, God, I'd really like that. It sounds really competitive, like the horses were as well. And I'm strong and I'm fit. And I wouldn't have, the horse to contend with, or politics or money and all that comes along with the horse industry. So I just said I'd join a gym. So I think like a week later, I joined Rosaria in Neilan and did like 2 hours there that night and loved it. Thought I was great, and started looking up Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey and all the likes. And that was kind of it. That year, I think it was 2015, I quit horses. I qualified as a physio. I started martial arts. I moved to Vancouver in Canada for 7 months and trained out there. I went to my first Conor McGregor fight. I met John Kavanagh at a pool party after the fight. So that whole year was like a really, really big change for me. And then it just kind of skyrocketed after that. Like I just put my head down and trained twice a day, every day, and just kept learning.
Yeah, so it's quite a big change, like from horses to fighting.
Yeah, massive. Like, well, do you know it isn't? It isn't like there's definitely similarities in you have to cut weight for both. You have to work really hard at both. You have to be strong and fit. And I worked every hour in the sun for the horses, so going in and training twice a day didn't seem that difficult. And I was quite resilient, to the training, because of spending years like on the slog, on the Curragh, out in the rain and wind. So yeah, it was a nice change. Like it definitely freshened me up, taking on this new challenge, and leaving the horses behind me. And it's a decision I'm really happy I made now. Like I never go back. I haven't sat on a horse since. So that was the end of that.
Yeah. And did you, like you said, when you went your first night to the MMA gym, did you know you were going to have, did you think then, like, even though I know you said you loved it, but did you think you were going to have a pro career from it?
Yeah.
You knew straight away?
Yeah, I guess my mom always said I was a bit of a dreamer. So, I spent like all my childhood knowing I was going to do something good. I didn't really know what it was going to be, but I tried to get veterinary in my leaving cert, and I fell short, and I got like 550 points. So I was a high achiever academically, and then I wanted to be a jockey and a really good female jockey, and I just kind of fell short of that too. So I already had two really big ambitions in my life that I wanted to achieve, and I just fell short. And when I got off the mats that night, I remember thinking like, this isn't as hard as you think. I think I have to be better than loads of other girls already. So I said, right, I can work really hard at this, and I could definitely be world champion. I was definitely probably, over ambitious at the start, and then I got my arse handed to me for a few years, and I calmed down a bit with that. But yeah, I always believed I was going to be a pro, and believed I was going to be a world champion, and I still think I am.
Yeah. I suppose that's the attitude you kind of have to have, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like for me, martial arts isn't like, I guess, the way of life, or the live the, I don't know, the jiu-jitsu lifestyle or whatever. It's not really like that for me. It's very much competitive. So a lot of people do martial arts. Like now, it definitely helped my mental health, don't get me wrong. And I met lots of nice people. You know, the horse racing industry was quite cutthroat. So I enjoyed being around nice people, and it kept my mind busy. So it was good for my mental health. But for me, doing martial arts was always going to be a competitive journey. I wasn't doing it for the crack. I don't really do anything for the crack. And when I finish, I don't think I'll, spend my life on the mats trying to become a black belt or something. Or, I very much, I'm doing this to be a fighter,
Yeah. I suppose, like, I kind of, like, personally, I kind of, like, because I've always been competitive as a kid, like, all the way through taekwondo and anything like that. And I do sometimes struggle. I don't think I could, like you, be someone who just turns up with and just trains for just to train. It's like you do need to have a goal to push towards.
Yeah, it's just a totally different mindset, isn't it? Like, and I bet, like, if you were in a fitness gym, you'd be probably trying to run faster than the guy beside you as well.
It's everything's a competition.
So it's the personality, really, isn't it? And that's everything in life.
Yeah.
So
But,
you're trying to beat someone.
That's it. And they don't even have to know you're trying to beat them. It's just in your head nearly sometimes, it's like they could just be doing their thing, but you're doing yours, though, trying to do it quicker than them.
Yeah, you're eyeballing them up and they don't even know what you're at.
Yeah. So, like, when you started, was there a certain element of MMA that you kind of took to more so than the others? Like, was it jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking? Was there something you took to more so than everything else?
Well, I guess all my coaches from the start said that, like, I was made to wrestle because I was so strong. Like, I guess that was the biggest thing I got from the horses was my strength from riding out and from wheelbarrows and buckets of water and carrying and lifting my whole life. I found wrestling, pretty straightforward and could, maul people around the place. But I wasn't convinced myself that's what I wanted, though. I wanted to be a striker. I didn't like getting submitted. It irritated me. So I spent maybe the first 2 years really working on my striking and determined that every fight I went into, I wasn't going to wrestle. Even though John Kavanagh kept telling me, you are going to wrestle, your wrestling's your strongest point, you're going to take people down. And I full point blank told him no, I wasn't, that I was going to strike, and I didn't care what he wanted. I was going to be a striker. So yeah, I took to wrestling easy. Loved striking though, loved hitting people, thought that was great. And now as a pro, I suppose after my IMMAFs, where I really did wrestle, I wanted to win so badly, I took them all down after all of my talk. And that kind of cemented me as a wrestler going forward. So even now, it's still my strong point is my wrestling.
Yeah, well, that's something that I suppose that's even a little bit different as well. Is that you see some people, like, when they start or get involved, they want to just stick to their strengths and they don't want to push towards maybe the areas they're weaker in. But you kind of went the opposite way. You kind of nearly wanted to avoid what you were good at and go into what you were weaker at.
Yeah, and it wasn't that I had that mindset that, oh, I need to get better at striking. It was that I just really liked fighting, and there's no, I guess jiu-jitsu matches aren't fights, wrestling competitions aren't fights, but kickboxing is a fight. So I liked, I felt exhilarated and felt like a fighter when I was hitting people. So that's kind of more why I radiated over there. To be honest, I probably should have spent a lot more time doing jiu-jitsu. I definitely, like, I had a scowl on my face most nights wearing the gi, but got on with it and got what I had to out of it.
Yeah. So then, like, how did you come from training, like, when you first started to then going to SBG? How did that kind of come up? Well, I know you said you met John Kavanagh in Las Vegas. Like, was that kind of where it started to how you got to SBG?
Yeah, so when I started as Aria January 2015, And then I went to America in June that year, just after graduating. And myself and my brother, we went like on a trip around America. And that's where I met John at the pool party. After, I think it was Connor versus Mendes. And anyway, after that trip, when we were in Vegas, I said to my brother, like, I really don't want to go home back to Ireland. Like, I'd rather stay with you, because he was living in Canada at the moment. So I just didn't go home from the holiday. I flew to Canada with him after the fight and got a visa and stayed there for 7 months and trained in a gym over there at Checkmat in Vancouver. We did loads and loads of wrestling, like, you know, it's kind of their bread and butter over there, and I loved it. You know, they thought I was an Irish fighter. Sure, I'd only been training 5 months, and I didn't tell them any different. And they let me on the MMA team straight away. And I was just going for it pretty much for that 7 months. I learned loads. I competed in jiu-jitsu. That were my first competitions. And then I guess after 6 months, I really got homesick and wanted to come home. And before I went to America in the first place, I was already kind of in a, you know, crossroads in my life. I was a bit down about everything that went on with the horses, and, you know, I was, you know, finding things difficult and had a low mood and stuff. So when I went to Canada, I kind of brushed under the carpet for a few months, and then I just really got homesick and said, oh, I really need to sort my shit out and go home and get a job and all that kind of stuff. So as well, in that time I was in Canada, I was stuck to Facebook and Instagram, and I could see everything that was going on in SBG all the time, and that Irish MMA was exploding in Dublin, and I was in Canada. So I was determined, right, go home, get a job in Dublin and join SBG. So we flew home on Stephen's Day, and I think on the 10th of January, I joined SBG and went back right now for a month or two, because I needed to, while I was getting the physio job, got a physio job in March in Dublin, and moved to Dublin, worked as a physio near Phoenix Park and trained twice a day. And then within 6 months, I was on the team. So I got on the team around June and had some K1 fights, and I was just in my element. Like, you know, I kind of imagined myself when I was in Canada going home, moving to SBG and training under John. And within 6 months, like, it was a reality. You know, it was just really surreal. Like, it was, you know, a very exciting time for me.
Yeah. And did John remember you from the party when you turned up to SPG?
No, that was you know, a good thing though. I think he didn't remember, but you know, fast forward 2 years from that, we were the night before the World Championships in Bahrain. My brother said it to him, told him, do you know that she met you, and sent him the picture. So he did, like, he has the picture of me and John from the pool party, a lot fatter version of me. It was not a great picture, but anyway, John publicised it then that night and said that tomorrow I'm going to make the walk with Danni, and she was one of the few people that met me previously and said that fighter and she was going to be on my team. And he said she's actually the only person that ever did that said it and actually did it. And people say it all the time, but they don't follow through.
Yeah, he's getting it all the time. Like, he often shares, John, he's often sharing them on Twitter or Instagram, like the pictures of the DMs and stuff, like, of people saying they're going to try and with him and stuff. So to actually do it is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I'm glad to the World Championships, because then it was all the sweeter. Like, you know, if I said that to him the first day I met him, he'd be like, this one.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. The fact you didn't say it, yeah, that makes it even better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I know you said when you started straight away you wanted to be competitive, and it's been a competitive aspect, like, pursuit for you. Like, how long did you wait to compete in your first fight from when you started training?
I think I had my first kickboxing fight for SBG in April. I competed in jiu-jitsu the first year I joined or started martial arts. I competed in jiu-jitsu in Canada, and then I got back to Ireland. Yeah, I think it was April. I had like a tournament style novice fight, and then 2 weeks later I fought a girl up north on a proper show straight after. She had a pull out and I fitted in, and I won that kickboxing fight against a girl with a big enough record. I think I had 1 or 2 more kickboxing fights after that, and I did like an MMA tournament in Cork, and then from there I think it was that November of that year, 2016 was it? Maybe it was the following year. That was 2016 that year. That November I went to the IMMAFs, to the Europeans, and that was my first ever amateur MMA fight.
A big enough stage, I suppose, to be starting European Championships.
Yeah, like that year, Franz, Malambo and Schneid, I'm pretty sure it was that year. I'm not sure. I think they won. They were in Vegas that year, and they were winning medals at an IMMAF. Or maybe it was the year before. And I remember seeing all the other fighters doing these IMMAFs, and I think I messaged John in August saying, can I go in November? Like I haven't fought, but I was just on the team at that point, and he's like, yeah, sure, enter away. So the plan was to try and get a fight before I went, but it was really hard at the time to get any fights in Ireland, and there was none available in the UK. So I ended up just going straight off the bat over to Prague, and the first fight I ever had, I lost within a minute. I got submitted straight away, and the girl that fought me, she won the tournament and actually went round the following year at the World Championships. She got bronze and I got silver. So she was, quite a competitive girl. I think I was better than getting submitted straight away. I think I was better than it showed. Like, I think the competitor was pretty good, and it gave me a rude awakening. So that was heartbreaking. Spent the week in Prague looking at everyone else competing, and I was absolutely raging, and came home and was determined that that wasn't going to happen again, and that I should have won. I kept saying to myself, I could have won the gold medal. I thought the competition wasn't great over there. But anyway, that fueled me, and from that fight, I got a fight the March the following year, and I fought a Polish girl in England, and we had a war. I got like my skull totally deformed from it and everything. It was a really tough striking fight, and I lost that fight in a decision. So I lost my first 2 fights, and she went on to be the AFC World Champion, and she's a pro with, I don't know, she's like 7-1 or something at the moment. So she's actually quite legit as well. I felt I won that fight. I was a bit pissed off with that too. So 2 losses down, fought 2 proper girls. And then from then on, I went on a streak. So I won 6 fights in a row after that.
Yeah, and that was part of the IMMAFs, was it? Would have been IMMAF World Championships would have been included in it as well, would it? Yeah.
Yeah, so I got 2 fights before I got 1 or 2 fights. Let me think. I fought 2 girls. Yeah, Megan Morris, I bet her a few months later. Then Becky Ainscock, fought her in Cage Warriors and won that. Then went to the IMMAFs, won 3 fights in a row, and then lost in the World Championships. So that was 5-fight winning streak. Then had the loss at the IMMAFs, and then had 1 more amateur fight after that in the UK the following year, and won that as well.
Yeah. So how did you find the IMMAF kind of style where having was it 4 fights in just as many days? How did you find that setup?
It was tough. Like, I don't think there's anything tougher I'll ever have to do. Like, I remember when I was coming home on the plane saying, never do another IMMAF again. That's it. Like, next time I fight, I'll be pro, and I will only have to fight one person in any fight camp. It was really, really tough. It was totally emotionally draining because you're walking around the hotel with all these competitors and you're trying to concentrate on this one person that you're fighting the next day. And then once you've beaten them, you have to forget about them really quickly, but you can't because they're still in the bloody hotel walking around. And then you're looking at the next one, and you're trying to come up with a game plan overnight to fight them. And you don't have time to adapt. You're as good as you are, and whoever they put in front of you, you just have to keep beating them. On top of that, then I took loads of damage over the days. My fighting style has always been aggressive, and I took a batter, and I got my head split open in the semi-finals, and I had like 24 stitches or something in my face for the final. So I was literally like hanging upside down in a bucket of ice at night and trying to recover and cut weight, while knowing I had to show up the next day and fight. So it was really, really hard. I don't use that as an excuse for not winning, though. I should have bet the girl in the final. I gave her too much respect, and it's very disappointed in myself that I didn't just fight her. I gave her too much respect, in my opinion.
Yeah. Are you still disappointed with the silver, or looking back now, do you see it as been a good achievement? Like you got as many fights as you could have had that week?
Yeah. Look, it would have been great to be world champion, but to be honest, looking forward to my future now, it was the better thing to happen. If you get a gold medal, I don't know, I think I would have thought I was class and I would have rested on my laurels. Might have been cockier going into the pro scene. I was absolutely heartbroken when I got silver. Like, I was inconsolable. Like, you'd swear all around me had died. And I think it took me days to stop crying. Like, I was just constantly crying and upset. And I was so upset because I knew I had underperformed, that I had more in me. And it irritated me that everyone around me was saying, well, your face was split open and you were exhausted and you had this and that. And they were all giving me, kind of an scapegoat. So I'll never forget that loss. It was worse than the first loss in Prague, but that was bad too. And that's fueled me now to perform. My biggest thing now, whenever I spar or fight, is I have to perform. If I perform and I lose, I can't be upset. I have to get over it and just realise there's someone better than me. But if I lose because I didn't perform, I can't forgive myself. So it was a really good thing to happen, to go into the pro scene, having that in my back pocket, knowing, you remember what that felt like. Well, you better fucking show up here now, or that's going to happen again. So I think it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, keep the fire burning, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. Keep the fire lit, and keep chasing.
And did you find like everybody around you was kind of, like you said, like, oh, your face was, but your head like was cut open, and that, but like everybody around you maybe felt like the silver medal was a great achievement, but to you, it was a letdown.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's that moment when things go wrong, and they all wanted me to win. Like, they definitely, all my family and coaches and everyone wanted me to win, but when I didn't win, they were like, oh my God, now let's look back and see, like, you had no chance going into that World Championships. Like, no one thought you had I wasn't considered at all as one of the top girls, and oh, look at what you've achieved. And they all kind of jumped on that bandwagon, and whereas I didn't. I thought I was going to be the world champion, and they were giving me reasons why I did great regardless, and it just didn't sit good with me at all. I just didn't want to be around any of them. I was just pissed off, really.
Yeah. So then, like, the term pro, were you expect, like, was the plan to sign with Bellator straight away, or was that just kind of the way things worked out with, they they like decided they were going to start coming to Ireland a lot more, and that kind of just coincided? Or
well, from the World Championships, John started talking about Bellator and the European Series, and he put in a massive amount of work into making that a reality. So, you know, that was in talks from 2017 to happen. And, you know, he's told me that he was, you know, he had a list of us to bring to Bellator, and that I was one of them to get signed. And, you know, he worked really, really hard to make that happen, get us all the contracts. You know, he's done a lot to make, you know, Bellator realize, you know, what a massive fan base, and that it's a profitable you know, opportunity to come and do this European series. So from the Worlds, I knew kind of Bellator was where I was going to be heading. It was just a matter of time for when, you know, John got that kind of signed off on. In the meantime, I fought one more amateur fight. I had a pro debut lined up on Celtic Gladiators, and I got a concussion a few weeks before, and I had to pull out of the fight. And that was great, because then I made my debut on Bellator instead. That was in 2018. I got the concussion, and I fractured my elbow the same year. So that whole year I was out. And then I made my debut in 2019, last September.
yeah, and how was that like, making pro debut 3 Arena?
Yeah, it was class. Like, you know, looking back now, like, I'm delighted I didn't do that in Celtic Gladiators. That, you know, it was just really cool. Like, after being in the IMMAFs and kind of being on that world stage, and then going from there to Celtic Gladiators, I think I would have been a bit disappointed. So it felt like, you know, I was up in the ranks after the IMMAFs, and now that Bellator were really rewarding me for that medal and giving me that chance as a debut. You know, Kieran Clark was the same as me. 2 of us debuted the same night, and he did so many IMMAF fights as well. So it was like a reward for all our work. I wasn't nervous because I watched all my teammates compete in the 3 Arena for 3 years up till then. And every night I went to the 3 Arena, to Bama or to Bellator or to whatever was on. I remember thinking, I'll be here someday. You know, I think I kind of visualized it every night. I went to watch them, and then I wasn't as nervous when it turned around and it was me. That was the other side of the stands, you know.
Yeah, you felt like, did you feel like you kind of nearly like that? It was just like you'd lived it nearly already, because you'd pictured it so much in your head, like it was just exactly as you'd imagined it.
Yeah, like I tried to imagine myself walking out and how nervous I'd be, and I think I went through that lots of times in my head, and how I was going to deal with the nerves, and you know, what I was going to say to myself. And I was more than prepared, and I had an extensive amateur career. I took a full year out pretty much with injury, so I was definitely ready. You know, it was the right time.
Yeah. And then, like, I know we was just talking at the start about like to fight, like your upcoming fight's going to be more likely behind closed doors. Do you think, like, experiencing even in the IMMAF events, because obviously there isn't massive crowds at those events, like, do you think that experience will help in coming up in your next fight?
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, I don't know where the fight's going to be, but the IMAFs, it was like an indoor arena that was pretty much empty, other than the last days when it got busier for the finals and stuff. And like a cage situated in the middle of an empty arena, you know, quite daunting. You know, with a lot of space around, and then you're kind of center stage. So I'm imagining that's what the fight will feel like, that there's like just a random cage in an arena somewhere and there's no one around, and you just like walk down and get up on the steps and into it. So yeah, I kind of have in my head that it's going to be just like IMAFs.
Yeah, it's like that. It's good to have that experience. That, you know, it's not something that you one like all your fights have been in front of crowds, big crowds, or anything like that. Like you had fights where it's been quiet enough and it's just in a cage, you and your opponent. So that should help in this next fight.
That's definitely like, you feel a little bit more nerve-wracking sometimes when you're away from the crowd. I fought on an English show twice, and the crowd were right on top of the cage, and there's something really like warm feeling about having people close to you, whereas in the Three Arena, like, they're back away from you, and the IMMAFs, they were way further back. So yeah, I think being kind of in the open is, I don't know, you feel a bit more vulnerable or something than when you have people on top of the cage.
Yeah.
A bit strange.
And so then, like, are you still working as a physio now, with balancing working with training, or are you full-time fighter?
So this time last year, I went from full-time down to half-time physio, and I got a new job in St. Michael's House, doing that for a year. And then I actually handed in my notice a couple of weeks ago. So I just have one more day left of work, and then I'm done with physio. I guess till the rest of my fight career is over. Our gym in Mullingar took off after COVID. It got really, really busy. So I have the opportunity now to focus on the gym and fighting. And that's kind of all come together. And I've got a sponsor coming on board as well from the UK. And so I'm kind of signing off on that this week. So all them things came together in a row. And then I had, this fight planned as well. So I just ended up handing in my notice, just gone. So that's it for me as a physio for now.
Yeah. Exciting times, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong, I've been thinking about, resigning, for years. Like, even when I was doing it full time, I was always like to and fro, and just not having enough energy, like, to do everything. And I was going into work with black eyes and stuff, and there's just a lot to it. Like, you get paranoid, and you're in training and you're thinking about something you forgot to do at work. And it was always going to be like, I was never going to keep the job up the whole way along. I don't think I would be giving my all to fighting if I did that. So it was just, I needed the final, nudge to actually do it, give up the pensionable job.
Yeah, I suppose that's the challenge, like, isn't it? There is some perks to the other job.
Yeah, I worked for the public system, so definitely, like, the pension and the permanent status, like, it's easier, like, getting loans from banks and whatever and different things. It's a bit different when you're a business owner, than working for the government. But look, if you don't jump, you don't know how high you're going to go, so you got to go for it.
Yeah. So then, what does a training schedule like? So for an upcoming fight, what would your training schedule look like in terms of like strength and conditioning sessions to maybe cardio sessions to MMA sessions?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much the same. Like, I like routine, so I might change it like every few weeks minorly, but generally it's the same. So my week starts on Sundays. Like day one, I call it. Like, Sunday morning, I do boxing here in Mullingar with a boxing coach. They own a gym called Olympic Boxing. They've got like so many bloody Irish champion boxers, and I think they're number one for the juniors at the moment. They have the most medals for Irish amateur boxers underage level. So I do pads with David Joyce from that gym, and then after I'll drill with Alan or do kicks with him and stuff, because that's obviously just boxing, whereas Alan does Muay Thai and kickboxing with me. Then Sunday afternoon I do strength conditioning at home, and then I go for a run. And then Mondays I'm in SBG. We do like 5-5s where we do like jits with hits and wrestling. And then in the evening I'll do some sort of cardio set out by Sean Canan. He's from Health Matters in City West, so he does my VO2 and sets out my cardio program. So that's Monday sorted. Then Tuesday I do strength conditioning in the sports clinic in Santry. They've looked after me since I fractured my elbow. So I've got a really good coach there called Tommy, and he does a session with me once a week there. Then I go straight to SBG. I do positional wrestling, come home, usually have Tuesday evening off, or do some sort of cardio that Sean set out for me. Wednesdays I spar MMA, and Wednesday afternoon off. Thursdays I'll either stay in Mullingar and hit pads with Alan, or I'll go up to SPG and do the same as the Monday class, so like the jitsu hits. Then my cardio program in the afternoon again, and then Fridays is either Mullingar or Dublin. So Thursdays and Fridays are kind of the days based on how tired I am, whether I go to Dublin or whether I stay in Mullingar. And then if I'm in Dublin, we're doing grappling, and if I'm in Mullingar, we're doing striking. And then Saturdays off. So I do doubles maybe 4 times a week. But when I was starting out, I used to do classes every night as well as the pro sessions. But I just wasn't improving. It didn't work for me. You know, I was broke down, getting wrestled during the day and then trying to learn stuff in the evening. It just didn't work. So in the last 12 months, I really adapted this go hard in the morning mentality, be done by like o'clock latest, and then depending on your energy levels or how your body's recovered from that hard morning session is what I do in the afternoon then. And I don't put myself under huge pressure for that afternoon. It just means I think that I'll fire better the next day, you know.
Yeah. You seem to have a lot of people as well on board, like a good team around you that kind of takes care of all your different bits and pieces.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, I'm quite controlling, and I like to drive my own ship, and I kind of like, you know, pull people aboard behind me and tell them what I want and what they're doing for me. So yeah, like I've kind of gathered people up along the way, and if you were on the same mindset as me and I thought you were really going to help me, definitely, you know, I want you on my team. But now I've got Alan doing my striking, I've got John doing all my grappling, Dave Roach in SBG, then he's like, you know, second in line to John. So he's been a massive help as well. He's kind of new enough to come on the scene, but he's, you know, definitely one of my coaches. And then the boxing coach. Apart from that, there's no one else that teaches me martial arts. Only them core people. And then it was getting a cardio coach and strength conditioning coach. But because I'm a physio, I was quite picky at who was going to do my strength conditioning, and that I wanted to go to Santry because it's physio led, and then the strength coach, you know, always works side by side with the physio on what I'm doing, and that's definitely going to give me more longevity in my career, by doing the strength conditioning that way rather than kind of balls to the wall. We concentrate a lot more on what's weak and what's injured, and let's make sure that's ready to go for tomorrow's session.
Yeah. I suppose I can sometimes be forgotten about that, like the strength and condition aspect, I suppose, is kind of more supplemental nearly to the rest of your training. Like, it's not, your hardest session shouldn't be in the, like, lifting. It should be when you're in the gym doing martial arts.
100%. I think that's the biggest mistake. So I feel like there's two opinions on strength conditioning. One is that people don't do it at all. They're like, oh, I don't need to lift weights, I can submit people. I don't do strength conditioning, I just do more time on the mats. And then the other opinion is, oh, I can do more strength conditioning than anybody, I'm so strong, I'm so fit or whatever, you know, I'm going to go balls to the wall. So I think both opinions are wrong. I think it's been proven time and time again how you don't get injured, apart from sleep and nutrition, is strength. So, like literally, there's thousands of studies. How do you not get injured? You do strength training. There's no other answer. So if you don't do strength training, you're being very silly, in my opinion, from a physio point of view. You're not reinforcing all them structures that are getting absolutely battered day in, day out. And then the other side is, yeah, you're, as you said, your strength conditioning session, there's no point that being your like 100% session of the week. It should be your MMA spar, and then that should be just complementary to that.
Yeah. It's like you said, like I think even with strength and condition, that even if I suppose you want to argue, it doesn't add like necessarily add a performance benefit, but if it means, like you said, you're injured less, then that means you can train harder in your MMA sessions, which means there's the performance benefit. So like it's like you might even have an indirect performance benefit as such, you know.
Exactly, 100%, and because I think sports specific strength conditioning, you need to go a lot easier, and you know, like you're not lifting near your 100% capacity or your 100% reps, but you're just gradually building on to that, your whole system, that you're going to be that bit more resilient to the hardship it gets, you know. But look, everyone has their own opinion on it. You know, everyone has their own ways that work for them, and you know, lots of people run every day and they do different things and swimming and all sorts. So, you know, once whatever you're doing is working for you, you're performing and you're not getting injured, then you know, maybe that's what works for you. I don't know, but this is the system that's working for me at the moment.
And then would you have a nutritionist that helps you as well, or do you look after your own nutrition?
My brother's a dietitian, so that was handy, and I don't have to pay for him, which is great. I think that's kind of a running joke in the family. You know, he's also my manager at the moment, my pro manager, and he laughs at that too, that he doesn't get any commission. He just gets all the hardship. So he's taught me over the years loads, and my weight cuts now are, you know, 70%. I already know exactly what I'm doing, and then 30%. I have to WhatsApp him every morning and give him an update, and then he, you know, gives me advice based on where we're at. So, you know, I pretty much learned it all off by heart by now. But if I don't WhatsApp him, then I'm not accountable. So that's the biggest thing that helps me anyway, you know, to be able to tell him, oh, I'm still having lost weight and it's like 7 days or whatever. If you're not telling somebody that, you're kind of cutting yourself, you know.
Yeah. And then would you cut much weight, or does it tend to be, you know, you make weight mostly through diet?
So I used to cut loads of weight before I was pro. I used to be able to cut loads of weight, and you know, wasn't great at dieting, and then I passed out for a Muay Thai fight. I was cutting weight for a Muay Thai fight. I left way too much to cut, and I got up really quickly from a wrap in the bed and proper passed out, and you know, really thought like I was going to have to go to the hospital, like. So that gave us a massive fright, and my fiance was with me, and my brother heard about it, and they were all pissed off at me, and I ended up fighting anyway the next day, and they all get out to me. So from that day on, we've worked really hard on keeping me lighter all the way around, and still, like, my brother wants me walking under 130 pounds always, and I haven't been able to achieve that yet. But coming up to a camp, we do 12 weeks, losing 1 pound a week, and I haven't had to sweat more than 3 pounds for my last 2 pro fights. So that's a big turnaround. I was doing like 8 pounds before that. So 8 pounds like the morning of the way in. So now we do, like, I think I did 1.5 pounds for my first pro fight, was all I had to sweat, and then I did 3 pounds for the last one. So you know, that's been working really good. The hard part is definitely after the fight, trying to keep under 130. I find that hard, like, especially COVID. I got quite chubby over COVID.
I think everybody did.
I know, and no excuse, because like I'm always saying, oh, if only I wasn't working, sure, I'd be in such good shape. And then sure, we weren't working. We were on laptops at home, and I wasn't in such good shape. So it's bullshit. Like, you know, you're stuck at home and you're saying, oh, if I was home all the time, I could train and do this and cook my food properly. And yeah, but we were all home and we all gained weight. So
yeah, I suppose but there's always the excuse, really, isn't there? I suppose, like, there's always the if only, but you know,
I think the burn out it was knowing you weren't going to have to make weight for anything. You know, that was the problem.
Yeah, that was it. Like, yeah, there was just you didn't know when the next time competition was going to happen, so it's hard to keep that focus.
Yeah, definitely. But look, as my career progresses, I really have, that's something that I really want to work on. This last couple of weeks, I've noticed like the amount of people that got opportunities for big fights that could just cut the weight within 10 days. You know, I'm not in a position to be able to do that right now. I want to be in that position that if I got the call for like a big fight, someone pulled out, that I could step in. And if you're heavy, you don't get them opportunities.
Yeah, I suppose like Masvidal there got the call.
Exactly. You know, like, and he wasn't in bad shape, but again, if he had the mindset of like, I'm going to be always ready, no matter what, you know, it might have been a bit easier for him. Like, but I'm the exact same. I let myself get heavy, so that's something I really want to nail from after this fight. Really try.
And then, like, when it comes to sweating the last bit, like, how would you tend to use bath and wraps, or is it sauna, or what would you tend to?
Yeah, bath and I don't do good in the sauna. I get very faint, and it's dry heat for me. I just doesn't go good with me. So I do the bath, 30 minutes, not really like ridiculous hot or anything, just hot but not burning your skin or anything, and then straight out of the bath and wrap up and get in the bed. I do 45 minutes in the bed, and then that usually does about £1.50 for me. And then if I have to do it again, I might have to stay in the bed for like an hour and 15 minutes the next time to do the same kind of £1.50. So it's just kind of rinse and repeat. That's what works for me. I know some of the bigger guys, they can do half an hour in the bath and they can use £3 just in the bath and to get in the wrap, and they use another 4. But I'm a bit smaller, so you know, that's the way I do it. And I guess 3 things that I do to make sure I don't pass out or get lightheaded is I always have like Haribo nearby, so that can get like a sugar rush before I have to move if I get lightheaded. When you're lying in the wrap, it's important that when you sit up, you give yourself a few minutes sitting up to let the blood kind of circulate before you stand up. Then if you stand up straight from lying down, you're more likely to faint as well. So I don't know if this good advice to be giving people, but I think you should always have someone that knows what they're doing with you. Have like an electrolyte drink or a sugary drink where you can take a mouthful if you need to, or Haribo. And just be careful, like changing levels, lying down and standing up and stuff. But you know, the best advice is don't have more than £3 to lose. Really, you know, stay within your limit.
Yeah, and I suppose actually before we finish up, I tend to ask everybody if you had to pick a favorite fighter, who would you pick? Doesn't have to maybe MMA. Could be a boxer. Could be, but if you had to pick a favorite fighter, somebody you like to watch the most, who would you pick?
Oh God, I guess there's lots of striking fighters that I like watching that knock people out, but I have to say, like my favorite fighter is definitely Khabib. You know, the wrestling is just next level, and I'm never bored during his fights. I just love what he does and the way he does it. So, you know, it has to be Khabib. Like it's my style. So, you know, yeah, it's cool watching guys knock people out, but I've never knocked anyone out in my life. So whereas I think I can do a lot of what Khabib does. So yeah, I really look up to Khabib, and the way he wrestles is just so exciting.
Will you be allowed back in SBG now with that pick?
Probably not, but the funny thing is that John will often teach us lots of moves that Khabib does, and I don't know why people probably think that doesn't happen, but like I'm sure in AKA they talk about what Conor does too, and so if you are learning what your rival's doing and learning it yourself, then you're going to get on better. So we've spent many hours on the mat studying Khabib's wrestling and taking it on.
Yeah, I suppose if it works, it works. It's that's the way.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it's not like you're not going to throw a left hand if you're a southpaw because you don't like Conor McGregor. Like, it's
yeah. Well, I think we'll leave it there. I've really enjoyed the chat. Thanks a million for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Really I suppose all the best with the rest of your career going forward. You seem driven, very driven. So I'd expect you to. I think you'll do really well, and I'm going to be looking to follow along and watch your fights.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. And thanks for giving me the opportunity. This is brilliant. It's good to be able to talk and articulate yourself. I think it gets easier every one of these you do.
Yeah, I found myself when I first started, it was quite nerve-wracking, but I'm kind of in the swing of it myself. So
yeah, rare play to you. Geez, keep going. Looking at the way MMA is growing now, you never know. You could really take off.
Hopefully, we might get the Joe Rogan the Joe Rogan check.
Yeah, we'll have a competition. Who gets on Joe Rogan first?
I think you'll win. So yeah, take care and all the best. So take care. We'll see you.
Perfect. See you later. Bye. Bye.